Hey guys, big news going on in America, obviously, Roe v. Wade, the overturning of that decision, the 50-year history, the implications it has moving forward. And I'm not here to talk about what any individual's personal beliefs are. What I'd like to throw into the ring is I just watched my daughter celebrate her 18th birthday last week. My other daughter celebrated her 20th birthday the week before, 20th birthday. And I look at the 18-year-old and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was 18 when I was looking around at colleges in America. And I'd gone off to visit the college that I actually ended up going to in South Carolina. And anybody who knows me and knows my dad and my family, my dad never drank, never. Did he have judgment about it? Yeah, in his own story, he had some issues in in the family tree that made it such that he just never wanted to drink. Do I care if anybody drinks? Have I ever taken a drink? Sure. It's nothing to do with that. But the way that I was brought up, the household that I lived in, it was just something you didn't do. So what do you think I did when I was out looking at colleges? You keep somebody suppressed for long enough, what's on the outside is going to become super interesting. And so obviously never ever being able to go out, get drunk, come home to that household, never, I couldn't do it. It just wasn't a possibility. But I went away for this weekend to visit this college. And so there I was at a party. Literally, this is not a word of a lie. There was an IV bag from a hospital hanging on one of those little, trolley things. And someone had filled it full of vodka. And so here's me, who was a completely inexperienced drinker, sipping vodka from this IV bag at this college party. And I was absolutely hammered. I mean, wasted. What do you expect? I never really had anything to drink. I'd had sips here and there that I, stole from a friend's cup, just to see what it was like or whatever. But I was always driving and going home to that house. So it was great motivation not to drink. And so here I am at this party and this goes on. And of course, there's this fabulous looking college boy across the room and he's flirting with me. And I was so wasted when he was like, hey, let me go show you something. I went with him. And so, every parent's worst nightmare, what happens next? I go into a room and by the light of the bathroom that was in this empty room, I was able to tell that I wasn't alone and it wasn't just that guy. So long story short, there's multiples. I guess we call that a gang rape when there's more than one. And it was a life-changing experience for me, but one that never defined me. And so, I'm not here to talk about my choices, what happened after that, as far as what happened to the perpetrators, because I didn't know them, only to see. I could see the others by the light of the bathroom, and I knew definitively the face of two. And so anyway, fast forward, now this was May. So imagine right around this time when I was 18. Fast forward to now, I've decided I'm going back to this college because I was going to show them that they didn't ruin my life. I was going to walk onto that campus and I was letting them know that they hadn't hurt me. And luckily in that process, I realized that was still me hanging on to what had happened. And so once I finally realized, oh, hang on a second, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I actually sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed the rest of that college experience. But that first 2 years was all about letting them see me be okay. It is what it is. But what happened when I decided to go to that school, and then I arrived at that school ready to start my first semester as a college freshman, is you've got all these kids lining up and they're going in to sign up for all their courses. So you've got, this girl over here who's deciding what her major is going to be, and this girl right here has just found out that she's pregnant. And so this one's deciding what her future is going to be at the school. I'm deciding what my future as a human being, as a woman, as a mother, is going to be. And I was 18 years old. Y'all see how immature I am now? I'm 53. So imagine me at 18. And I made a very easy decision. And that decision was one where I went out and I went on my own and had an abortion. And I look back at that now. I don't stutter or stumble when I say it. It was something that I needed to do. It was what was right for me. If it was something that happened to one of my daughters, I would be right there with them, holding their hand all the way. Because that was for the rest of my life. You know, gosh, after having just gotten 2 kids to 18 and 20, it is a massive commitment. So for a child who had just turned 18 to have gone through a situation where, you know, it was a rape scenario and all, it was something that I decided for me just wasn't the thing to do. And I can remember going to the clinic because it was also a place where people would go just for gynecologist checkups and all this kind of stuff. And I remember, imagine you're 18, you've been raped, nobody knows about it. Now you've decided that, you know, you're going to take the bull by the horns and go and get the abortion because you're not mother material yet. And so I'm walking in, and there's all these protesters outside, and they're yelling at me as I go into the place, murderer! Oh my gosh, it was such an experience. And so, you know, I'm looking at today, and I don't have a day's regret. I have never, ever once looked back and go, oh my gosh, I happen to be somebody who believes that I don't have the power to deny anybody, any soul who's going to come and incarnate in the earth plane. I personally do not believe that I have the power to take that opportunity away from them. I very much so believe that, you know, you can grow a vessel, and if the experience is for the mother, that a soul may or may not occupy that vessel based on what a soul may or may not want to experience. It might want to spend, you know, that tumultuous time of indecision, fear, terror. What am I going to do while in the womb, in order to take back and glean that, you know, that information by having experienced it. You know, these are things that I saw when I went through the death experience. I don't care if you believe that or not. It's nothing to do with me. It was a personal experience, and it was a personal choice. You know, but having said that, I'm looking at this today, and I'm just sitting back going, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if that choice not to become a mother when that happened wasn't available to me. I'm like, oh my God, imagine. You know, I was 18 years old. I am now 53. How old would that kid be now? Oh my goodness. And all the things that I've done to date, how different that would have been. I dare say, even had I gone that route, I probably wouldn't have had the life-changing near-death experience, the car accident, because I would have just gone a different trajectory. And which one was right or wrong? They're just different. So, you know, I think it's really, really interesting. And I just wanted to kind of throw this concept out there for people to chew on. It's so wild watching it now. You know, Twitter's blowing up, Instagram's blowing up, and watching, again, we're going all political. You know, that if you're this, you believe one way, and if you're this, you believe another. And I'm like, it's so ridiculous because, you know, I happen to be, as we become more conquered and divided, I happen to be someone who extracts ideas that both sides like, both major political parties in America. You know, do I think that a woman should have a right to choose what happens to her body? You better believe it, because I made that choice. I was there. It's not something I read in a book or I saw in a meme, or I, you know, have a friend of a friend who it happened to. It happened to me. So I can speak with experience from that. And I can remember, you know, my parents are the best in the world. My father, you know, he was a big, interesting, amazing character. Did I feel safe going home and telling him that I'd gotten drunk at a party, gang raped, and pregnant? I didn't, and I wouldn't lie and say that. Now, when I say safe, does that mean that my father was going to kill me? No. Do you know what really went through my head at that time is I didn't want to put my dad, who loved me to death, in a position where he was going to jeopardize everything he'd worked for in his life. Because, you know, any dad out there who's listening to this can empathize with this. Any mom, forget it, you know, forget about just dad. Any parent can empathize with the feeling of rage that would come if you found out that somebody had abused, mishandled, raped one of your children. And so, you know, at that weird age, as immature as I was, there were some things that I was actually quite clear on. And one of them was I didn't feel the need to involve my parents in that. I just didn't want to do that. It was my choice, and it was me it happened to, and I really didn't want anyone else's interference or opinion on that. And that's how it played out. But what's really fascinating to me right now is, you know, when I look at the different planes, the different realms, the different experiences of existence that we have, and how little people actually understand that. And so you're like looking at the earthly kingdom, and you're like, oh, you know, we've given such control to our political parties, our governments, and then to ourselves. We're like fueling this kind of fire that we actually believe that things that we do here are going to give us all access to heaven, or, you know, deny us entrance into heaven, or cause us to burn in hell. And I mean, it's like really wild, some of the stuff that I'm seeing and hearing today. And I'm like, the other thing that's blowing my mind, guys, blowing my mind, is the utter hypocrisy that I am seeing. And judgment, I don't care what you call it, you know, all the names and the virtue signaling and all that kind of stuff. I'm just telling you a story, and that's it. That's all I know how to do. It's a true story, and it's my story. But I just spent the last 2 years as someone who chose not to get vaccinated, going through a pretty tough time. Yeah, well, it was, you know. My business was under threat, because I can't even tell you how many times people tried to get me shut down because I wasn't complying with the rules. And still standing, I'm good. And, you know, I considered myself essential. I deemed me essential because I have a family to take care of and myself to take care of. So nobody else gets to determine or decide whether I'm essential or not. And so I stuck to my guns on that one. And so I think it's really weird today as I'm watching a very predictable pattern unfold of the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. Bodily autonomy is now, you know, out the window, and women's rights. And I'm going, oh my gosh, these are the same people who turned around and said, you know what, let's gather up all the unvaccinated people and let's put them somewhere and let the rest of us get on with our lives. That's true. Do you know? I hate to say it, and it's not about, oh my God, everything's a vaccine issue. It's not. But this is something that's very recent. It's something that we're still going through. And I find it just horrifying that I am sitting here watching people cry about bodily autonomy. And they are the same people who were willing to sacrifice the rights and the freedoms of those of us who chose not to put something into our bodies because we didn't want to. End of story. I don't care about the science. I don't care about your reason. We just didn't want to. Right? And that should be enough. And when I made that decision not to have a baby at 18 after a rape, that's because I just didn't want to. It's nobody else's choice, nobody else's decision. I didn't want to. End of story. And so what I see happening today is I'm like, wow, this is crazy, because now all of a sudden anybody else who would be in a position like that isn't going to have possibly that access to that choice, you know. Oh, when's the right cutoff? You know, like if you're on the whole murder bandwagon, like what is, you know, when is it considered a murder? Like, please, come on, think about what you're saying there. You know, if you're on the spiritual end of things where I'm looking at the experience of having seen and witnessed the fact that I didn't have the power to take away the possibility of a life or the possibility to incarnate and live from another soul. That if this body got pregnant and if that vessel began to grow from the sperm and the egg coming together, that vessel was only a vessel until such time that it was animated by that tiny rivulet of spark of life and creation, that soul. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and that's the way that I saw it. So today has just been really, really weird, and I'm sitting here watching, going, does anybody, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Does anybody else see this? Bodily autonomy, except for this. And I'm like, you don't get to, it's not buffet style, guys. You don't get to pick and choose. But people do, and they're doing it all the time. But I just wanted to, give people something else to think about. Maybe, step back, take a little breath, and just have a think about it. Am I Democrat? Nope. Am I Republican? Nope. And do I have ideas that both of those groups tend to claim? Sure I do. And I have a bunch of weird ones in between them. But I just find the hypocrisy of the whole bodily autonomy argument just wow. Like, wow. So from someone who's actually gone through something very interesting, which is I actually was raped and became pregnant and had an abortion. And I'm actually somebody who didn't get vaccinated because I thought that was my right not to. These are two really, really big, juicy, deep-seated things from the Democratic and Republican parties that continue to allow them to be at loggerheads. And I'm like, ooh, wow, I'm like both of those things. I've done this and I've done this. It's like an elephant and an ass, an elephant with a big ass. I don't know, But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because, there are a lot of people out there who would be just like me who went through that experience and are probably really, really glad. There's some people who probably went through that experience and have regretted it. I've met people who've chosen to abort and then they were like, guilty, guilty, guilty. I didn't have a day of that because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that at that stage and under those circumstances, that wasn't okay. It wasn't okay for me to bring a baby into the world under those circumstances. And at that time in my life, I wasn't prepared to deal with that. And little did I know, a couple of years later, something massive that was putting me down a whole different pathway, i.e. a car accident where I died and came back and had the whole near-death experience. And I've been helping people with the metaphysics and all that. That was just down the pike. And so because I made this decision, I got to go this way, and I've never looked back. So I really, really feel for people who are in that weird position right now that if this did happen to them or to a sister or an auntie or their daughter or, a niece or whatever, how strange it would be, because genuinely, until you've been in that position, you can't. You can't judge, you can make choices. You can conceive of what you might do if you were under those circumstances. But until that moment is there, that certainty of this is what you are facing, and you have to actually make that choice yourself. There's nothing like it. So that's why I'm saying, just be really kind and be gentle. And for God's sakes, think about what you're saying before you put it online and all, because you just look ridiculous. Bodily autonomy. And I'm going, you were the one who didn't want me to go to the grocery store. So knock it off. Just knock it off. So anywho, that's my musings for a Friday night. And wow, what a roller coaster, guys. And I wouldn't miss any of this for the world. Peace out.